This happened in 2021 when I moved into a small apartment just outside of Denver. I used to love living alone. The peace, the quiet. But lately, the quiet feels different. Like someone else is enjoying it too. I had just moved into this one-bedroom apartment after a breakup. It wasn't much, an older building, third floor, no elevator, but it was mine. I was working from home, so most days I barely left unless it was to grab groceries or go for a walk. The place was small enough that I could hear everything, the hum of the fridge, the creak of the floorboards when I moved. That first month, it felt peaceful. I play music while cooking, leave the windows open, light candles at night. I like the silence, until I realized I wasn't the only one hearing it. It started with little things. A kitchen drawer I swore I closed would be slightly open in the morning. A window I never touched found cracked open one afternoon. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I was just tired, distracted. Working long hours can mess with your head, right? But that wasn't the part that scared me. One night, I was lying in bed around 1 a.m., scrolling through my phone. I was alone, completely alone. No pets, no guests. Suddenly, I heard something. Footsteps, soft, slow, coming from the living room. I froze. My bed was in the corner of the room, and from where I was, I could just barely see the door to the hallway. The footsteps stopped. Then a click. The sound of the kitchen light switch being flipped. But the lights didn't turn on. I waited, holding my breath. Eventually, I got the courage to grab the small bat I kept under the bed. I crept into the hallway. The apartment was dark. No lights were on, but the switch had been flipped. I could feel it was in the on position. I searched the whole apartment. Bathroom, closet, kitchen, nothing. The door was locked. Windows closed. Still, I barely slept that night. Over the next few days, things got weirder. One morning, I found a bathroom mirror fogged up, even though I hadn't showered yet. Another time, the TV was on when I came home, tuned to static. I never leave the TV on. I started locking my bedroom door at night. Then came a night I woke up around 3 a.m. Not to a noise, but to a smell. Cigarette smoke. I don't smoke. No one in the building does as far as I know. The hallway was clean when I checked. No smell there. Just in my bedroom. The final straw came a week later. I got home from the grocery store and noticed something weird. There was a set of footprints just inside my front door. It had rained earlier, and whoever walked in had left faint, muddy print boots. I was wearing sneakers. I called the building manager. I asked if maintenance had entered my apartment for any reason. He said no. In fact, he reminded me that the locks had been changed right before I moved in. No one should have had access. But here's the part that messed me up the most. When I asked if the previous tenant left anything behind, the manager paused. He said, honestly, that guy was weird. Kept to himself. We only found out he was gone when a neighbor called about a smell. He'd been living in the crawl space above the ceiling for days before anyone realized. I asked, wait, there's a crawl space? He hesitated again. Yeah, but it's sealed now. That night, I pushed my dresser in front of the bedroom door and didn't sleep. A few weeks later, I moved out. I didn't even wait for my lease to end. But sometimes I still wonder, what if it wasn't sealed? What if someone else found a way in? Because I wasn't going crazy. I know someone was there. Was I just being paranoid? Or was someone really living above me the whole time? This happened to me in 2020 when I was living in New York City. I was trying to forget him. That's the thing about breakups, right? You spend weeks, sometimes months, just trying to move on. But no matter how hard you try, some things just won't let go. My ex, Ben, was one of those things. We'd been together for almost 3 years before everything fell apart. I thought he was the one, but turns out he wasn't. The breakup was messy, but I tried to put on a brave face. I moved into a new apartment, started hanging out with friends more, and slowly but surely, I was getting back to myself. I thought I was over him. One evening, I was at home doing something completely mundane, brushing my teeth in the bathroom. The mirror was fogged up from the steam, and I was scrubbing away at the toothpaste, half watching myself, half zoning out. Then, just as I was about to rinse my mouth, I glanced up at the mirror. And that's when I saw it. His face. Ben's face, staring back at me in the reflection, just behind me in the window. It was like he was standing there, watching me frozen. I nearly dropped my toothbrush. My heart hammered in my chest as I turned around quickly, but there was nothing. No one there. I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me. It had been a stressful day. Maybe I was still reeling from the breakup. But it didn't make sense. I hadn't seen Ben in months. He certainly didn't know where I lived. Right? I tried to shake it off, but the image of his face kept flashing in my mind. Every time I looked back in the bathroom, I kept thinking I'd see it again. I was paranoid, I knew it. But the thing is, it kept happening. For the next few days, I'd be brushing my teeth or doing some other random task in the bathroom, and I'd glance up. There he was again, just standing in the window reflection, staring. Not behind me, like some creepy figure in the room, but in the window looking in from outside. It was always the same expression, cold, emotionless, like he was just waiting for me to notice. The worst part? No matter how many times I checked the window, there was never anyone outside. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. Maybe the stress from everything with Ben was just catching up to me. Maybe I was imagining things. But the feeling of being watched was so real. I started keeping the bathroom light on all night, just so I wouldn't have to look at the window in the dark. I figured if I didn't give it attention, the whole thing would go away. But it didn't. One night, after the fourth time this happened, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to confront it. I grabbed a flashlight, threw open the bathroom window, and shined it into the yard. I scanned the area for any sign of Ben, or anyone for that matter. But the yard was completely empty. There was nothing. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was out there, watching me. It felt like I was being drawn into some sick, twisted game. And the worst part was that I didn't know the rules. That's when I started to notice something strange. The reflection of the window wasn't just showing the outside yard. It was like the window had some strange way of magnifying the view of the building across from me. I could see other windows, my neighbors' apartments, people's lights on, someone walking by. But it was always clear the angle didn't add up. The reflection shouldn't have been showing the buildings across from me the way it did. It was like I was looking into a warped version of the world outside, and somehow Ben's face was always there. I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't want to seem paranoid. But as the days went by, the situation didn't improve. In fact, it got worse. One day, a week later, I was walking out of the building to grab groceries when I bumped into someone coming out of the neighboring apartment. It was a man in his mid-30s, kind of tall with messy brown hair. I barely noticed him at first, but then he stopped and turned around to give me a quick nod. "Hey, I don't mean to be weird, but I think I saw you the other day." He said it so casually, like it was nothing. "In your apartment, through the window." I froze. My heart stopped. I barely managed a weak smile. "I don't know what you mean," I stammered. He raised an eyebrow, clearly trying to be polite. "Well, I don't want to freak you out, but I live in the building behind yours. I was just, looking out the window, and I saw you in the bathroom a few times." I felt my blood run cold. My mind was racing, trying to piece it all together. I thought about the strange reflections, how Ben's face had been in the window, not just some distorted view of the outside world, but a specific place. I suddenly realized the building directly behind mine was where Ben used to live before we broke up. I didn't need to ask if he had moved. I already knew the answer. He never really left. He was still there, watching me. And somehow he'd figured out a way to keep me in his sights. It wasn't just a coincidence anymore. Ben had been in that building the whole time. I didn't know what he wanted or why he was doing this, but the feeling of being watched every moment of every day was suffocating. It was like I couldn't escape. And it dawned on me, maybe he'd been there all along, silently watching waiting for the right moment to reappear in my life. Was I just paranoid, or had Ben really been watching me all this time?